momentarily, but Toronto will be back. Toronto will be back. Okay, as I was saying, and we had the discussion yesterday, informal learning is not a nice to do, but a must do. And in fact, the more I hear, the more I read the book, the more I know we've got one foot in it and one foot outside of it. We've already evolved for many of us beyond just the formal training, which in the book is described as the push. And we're very much into client-centered service, which is the pull. And you feel that pull every day. There's much more than the classroom. In fact, 80% of learning takes place in the workplace, and we have to take an interest. More so this year because we've been asked to exercise functional guidance or functional direction for learning throughout Service Canada. And so there's an expectation on all of us that when we bring a learning solution, we look at it from various perspectives. And I mean, I got really excited in reading, but also in listening yesterday, and a word came out which was learnscape. And you know, I was in fact looking at my neighbor's house last night, and they were talking about it was a landscaping company that was there, and I was just imagining us with little tractors going out there and creating learnscapes throughout Service Canada. And gee, you know, there might be a not just fun, but a mission just in that. And I was reading things about, you know, I was in Edmonton recently, and Debbie, you'll relate to this. I saw the beautiful facility you have for lunch for the employees, and I heard Anne Milne tell me that they were looking at destroying that and throwing in a whole bunch of cubicles because they had to fit in more staff, and now they're looking at downsides, getting rid of that. And I also saw another location in Edmonton where there's an aquarium in the middle of in the call center. Beautiful. Now we're not talking a small aquarium. We're talking about a pond, an entire pond with big fish in it, right in the middle of the place where people dine. But what I noticed more was not those nice things, but how people were having conversations with each other. And I think there's a lot there in terms of that. So we have to quickly get our heads around informal learning, and we're fortunate this morning to have a world-recognized expert in the field, Jay Cross, who's traveled a long way to be with us to share what he knows, and also to get us thinking about what we might do inside. And I guess my hope is coming out of that, we have a common vocabulary around this, a common sense of purpose, and perhaps we start to, you know, open the windows, let some fresh air in, and maybe start looking at doing things a little bit differently within, but also with our clients. So I'll stop there and hand it over to
Thank you, Richard.
Our dear friend, and see where we go.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's great to have the opportunity to do this today. It all started with a very simple exchange about this book, actually, where when I teased Richard and I said, "Why, you didn't read this book?" I'm surprised.
The first meeting we had?
Yeah, the first meeting we had. And now we've got Jay on board, and we've got all of you on board today to look at this. And Louis, of course, as the leader, the project leader for Informal Learning, and Sylvia have been very much involved in the past weeks, along with me and Jay. And the way that we approached this was really to spend the first half day with the directors, having discussion and conversations around the concepts and trying to really build our own understanding of the informal learning. And today, the day after, we're going to share that with you, but we're going to have a part where we're going to share with you our understanding of the book. So it's going to be presentations from the directors to share the knowledge with you. And the next step would be to build action plans around informal learning. So that will be the important part, is that we then transfer our understanding and really start engaging ourselves towards developing informal learning strategies. So I will let Louis complete this overview of the agenda today.
Okay. Merci beaucoup, Luc et Richard. Today is really a day about two things. It's a day to give us at the college an opportunity to begin to develop a common language and a common understanding of what we're referring to when we talk about informal learning. And Jay is going to obviously lead this upfront piece of work, and the directors will also help by providing not a book summary, because you can all read and do your own summary, but our perspective on what are some key applications within the college of what's in the book. And this really brings us to the second part of the day, which is wisdom comes from conversation. So we want to create an opportunity to exchange, to have a conversation, and to move the conversation from a theoretical discussion on what is informal learning to really articulating that learning into some actions. So we'll invite everyone, and the director actually had to pay a price to attend the session. We had to each look at informal learning, and within the scope of our responsibility, defined the broad stroke of a concrete project in which we think we could work that would address some organizational issues. We want to invite everyone on the call to also have that same kind of process, to think through a modest projects that would be within the realms of your responsibilities that you could lead on informal learning. And the idea here is, and this is why it's an event that's kind of quote-unquote exclusive to folks at the college primarily, because we need to understand about informal learning so that we in fact can engage the rest of the organization in a progressive way. And yesterday we had a bit of a conversation around informal learning is not there to replace formal learning. We still need that, but we need to create an environment with a little bit better balance between natural learning that occurs.
Welcome all. The day is going to be broken into two pieces essentially. And before lunch, we'll get into sort of show and tell. We'll talk about things that are in the book. We'll relate them to the mission of Service Canada. We'll get frameworks out there. We'll talk a little bit about Web 2.0 and what that has to do with everything. And then during lunch, if you don't already have a project idea, you'll come up with one. Because after lunch, everybody is going to take a project idea, and we'll go through what it takes to make an informal learning initiative happen. So identifying, well, what would the impact be if this happens? And who's involved? And what are the obstacles? Because there are always lots of obstacles. What's the quantitative impact? How do we measure the outcomes? And we'll be discussing these in small groups with one another, where we keep each other honest on a thing. And finally, we'll come down to, well, what's the sales pitch for the idea? I mean, what do I call it, and how can I present it? I like the idea of the elevator pitch, where you're stuck in the elevator with the decision maker, and you've got just a little bit of time to express the idea, get them excited, get them on board, get their sponsorship. And sometimes this is not going to be somebody within Service Canada. I mean, as we were just talking, it's going to be proselytizing this for people outside of Service Canada and getting them excited and on board with things. Yesterday in Les Suites, I timed my elevator ride, and we stopped at one floor before we got to mine, so that added a little bit of time. But it took me 30 seconds to get to the 16th floor. Now, we may be liberal. We can give people like a 32-story building or something. But before we leave today, I hope that everybody, and those of you I see on the little 7 remote screens up there, 6 remote screens as well, delivers their elevator pitch to the rest of us, where we can learn from one another, because a lot of informal learning is learning from one another, and a lot of it's learning by doing. So we're going to do stuff after lunch.